My name is Scott Mantz. I'm the film critic for Access Hollywood. It is great to be here tonight. We are coming at you live from the ArcLight movie theater in Hollywood, California. I love this place. It's like a second home to me. Yours too. You're in for a special treat. In just a moment, joining us live on this stage will be the stars of Beyond the Reach, the legendary Michael Douglas, the supremely talented Jeremy Irvine will be here to answer your questions and to talk about the movie. Now, I mentioned tonight is a very special event because we're all here live in Hollywood, California, but this event is being streamed live in theaters across the country, which is really cool. So whether you're in La Jolla, California, not a bad place to be, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, also not a bad place to be, we'd like to welcome you to this special event, and we encourage you to participate. At the bottom of the screen that you're watching, if you're not here with me right now, a hashtag was created for this event. So if you have questions for Michael and Jeremy, please tweet them out using the hashtag ITL Beyond the Reach. Again, it's hashtag ITL Beyond the Reach, and we'll try to get to your question throughout the course of this program. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. Please welcome Oscar winner Michael Douglas. And please welcome the supremely talented Jeremy Irvine. Have a seat, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Oh, listen, thank you so much for joining us. This is really awesome. I saw this movie at the Toronto Film Festival. I thought it was great, and I interviewed these gentlemen at the Toronto Film Festival, and it's great to be doing this special event with you right now. And, you know, the first question at these sort of Q&As, it's sort of a cliche, but you got to ask because it really is where it got started. And that is for you, Michael, where did this get started for you? How did the material speak to you for you to say, I got to do this?
Thank you, Scott, and thank you all for being here. I just want to take a moment and thank ArcLight for this really interesting experience streaming, and for the moviegoers, many of them back east, it's 11:30 at night, that are joining us this evening. Thank you so much. And before we start, I mean, Jeremy and I are here, but we would have to acknowledge our director, Jean-Baptiste Leonetti, who could not be here tonight. I believe his wife, Camille, is there somewhere. Is she not? Okay. Don't raise your hand, Camille. That's okay. But I'm very happy, and it's a treat to be here. How did Beyond the Reach start? 1972. I read a book called Death Watch. It was written by Rob White. And it was this story. 1972, I was thinking about Jeremy's part, not mine. But it was a great little, Rob White was a young adult thriller writer. It was a wonderful story. And then later on in my career, I acquired a literary library. A library that included Damon Runyon, Cornell Woolridge, Shirley Jackson, and Rob White. And as I was looking through the roster, I saw Death Watch, and I said, I remember this story. I read this is a great cat and mouse tale, and we should try to develop this into a screenplay. Hired Steven Susko and got a good screenplay together. Then reached out and spoke with Jean-Baptiste Leonetti, who was a great Western fan. He loved the John Ford. He's French, by the way, in case you didn't get my accent. Just wanted to make sure. And he had done a little picture called Carré Blanc, which was had a great kind of atmosphere and mood to it. I was very enthusiastic, and then we got on board, and then together we went and found Jeremy. A nice British actor, the obvious choice for a part of a New Mexican high school graduate, and just gives you some idea of just how good the British are doing these days at acting. So that's the basis of it.
You're taking over. to ask you, just coming from the other angle of that, how you got involved. Like, did you get the screenplay first? Did you get the call? We'd like you to come in and read for this. Because, I mean, this movie does feel, you mentioned it, the story came from 1972. It feels like a 70s thriller. But for you, I mean, that's got to be a big thrill getting to work with this guy.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think, for any actor, when you get a call from someone like Michael saying, can you come and auditioned at your house in New York, and came and read with him, and, I think was suitably nervous beforehand, but then, knocked on the door and Michael opens and we sit down and have a chat, and, you soon realise you're just working with someone that's incredibly good at what they do, and is just a wonderful actor, so hopefully, rather than being horribly nervous, that just kind of ups your game a bit. And it makes you better, hopefully.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm watching the movie for the first time, and I'm thinking, wow, Matic really does resemble another character that you played, my friend. That, of course, is Gordon Gekko. Yes, everyone's shaking their heads. So, what is it about the heavies? You're so good at playing the heavies.
Bad is good. Used to be greed is good, but now it's bad is good. I think most every actor has, in their careers, has had a villain, a role that has been a very strong part. Villainry, like the devil, should be beautiful. Villainry, devils are seductive. It's not ugly. It's to try to attract and seduce you. And so I think for me, with Wall Street, which was the first time I really got a chance to play it, and then in hindsight got the Oscar and all of that, I saw the joy of playing villains. It was fun. It was, larger than life. You could chew up the scenery. Yeah. And then after Wall Street, I had all these people, MBAs coming up to me, drunk as a skunk. Hey, you're the man. You're the reason I got involved. And I said, hey, I went to jail in the movie, pal. I went to no. And I realized they love the clothes. They love everything except the substance of the guy. So when Beyond the Reach, I felt like I had Matic in my back pocket. It was 6 degrees north of Gordon. But I thought, people will know this character, and he's a little more psycho than Gekko was. But it's just fun. It's great fun to play villains, yep, and not have to worry about political correctness.
But is it as fun for you, Jeremy, to play this character?
Yeah.
You really go through the ringer in this movie.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest sort of signs of Michael's experience is he chose the role in the six-wheeled, air-conditioned, massage seat kind of car, whereas I was stuck in my underwear. So, I mean, it was, physically it was certainly, I hope, one of the most demanding shoots I'll have to do. But, I mean, it's funny, very quickly you get used to that, and for the actor actually having it all there for real. I mean, I sort of come from a theatre background where you're always having to imagine all this stuff, and in this there's not much imagination necessary. I mean, it's not a huge CGI movie, so when it looks brutal, it kind of really is. Yeah,
that's right.
No, they say that. No, it was Four Corners, the Navajo Indian Reservation, so it's not the Mojave. I don't really know what desert it was.
Shiprock Mountain.
Yes, Shiprock Mountain.
Yeah, Shiprock. Yeah.
But it's a beautiful terrain, but it is also just as deadly. And I just want to ask you about filming in the location. What kind of it must have been grueling. I mean, was it hot? Was it cold? I mean, how did the elements make it a challenging shoot?
I don't know, how was it inside the air-conditioned cab? No, it was. It was hot. I mean, we weren't there in August, but it was September. It was still 110 sometimes during the day, and then freezing at night. We had one night where it was sleet, and it's just for me coming off the plane from foggy old London town, that was a little shock, and definitely quite an alien environment to me. Yeah.
You know, it was about an hour and a half for most locations, an hour and a half drive from the hotel out to where we go, about 45 minutes on highways, and then about 45 minutes into the Indian locations. But you know, but then that wasn't. We just got out of the car, but then you started the hike up the mountain, and I think Jean-Baptiste, our director, I think he enjoys rock climbing in his one of his sports and all of that, but he has a wonderful eye and a wonderful vision as to the locations we could go. And one of the strengths of New Mexico and the New Mexico cruise is these guys are all mountain bike riders, super hikers, mountain. You know, they're the Sherpas of America. You know, they really know how to climb, and so we would end up a lot of times, there were no porta potties, there were no trailers, and we'd just be up a mountain for the day. But those kind of shoots, I find, I'm reminded about Romancing the Stone, I'm reminded about Ghost of the Darkness. You know, I personally love the challenge, even as a producer, of flying without a net, of having to deal just with whatever the environment exists. And for all of the adversity that we had, it brought the entire company very close together. And I think you kind of have stronger memories about this kind of picture than you do with those pictures that you go home at night, you know, back to your, you know, wherever your homes were and just disappear.
Saying that, I mean, you know, for me and the rest of the crew, we're watching Michael out there all day with the rest of it, you know, hiking his chair up and down mountain sort of sides. So, I mean, it was a real inspiration to sort of see Michael doing that and stuff. Yeah.
This year marks the 40th anniversary of one of the greatest films of all time, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This gentleman not only produced it, it was his first job as a producer, and he won the Oscar for Best Picture. So my question is, how did shooting or producing this film, which I'm guessing had a very low budget, compare to shooting your first movie as a producer?
Well, the first one, you know, we were so blessed on, and, you know, we were virgins. We ended up, the end experience was about trusting your instincts. And so you're left with saying, okay, I guess my first instincts are pretty good, you know? And so that allows you, not to say that every time you're right, but it's nice to know that instinctually, most of the time you are. So, you know, 40 years later, I mean, the same thing holds true. That you, you know, for me, it's never whether I'm acting and or producing, it's always the movie. You know, it's always, what do I think structurally is the best movie? And, you know, I did a television series at the beginning of my career for 4 years, Streets of San Francisco. And I did I did 104 hours. And a television movie is a 52-minute film that's shot in 7 days. And in my case, we were on location, so you were shooting 6 days a week, 8.5 months a year, just knocking them off. A different guest star, a different director, and looking at the script. So, you know, I'm an old-fashioned meat and potatoes, three-act kind of guy. And that has served me well through my career. And so I look at structure, and you trust your instincts. But then the final part of it with a picture like Beyond the Reach is the joy and excitement of flying without a net. When you're out there, you know, there is no studio, there is no backup. You guys got to make it, you got to deliver it, and it's got to be done on time. And I still get a thrill out of that. 40 years later.
How many days was your production, your principal photographer?
I don't know. Bobby, you're here. What is it, 30 days?
30.
Wow.
33?
33.
That's what I said, 30. See that?
30 days. Tell me about your toughest day. Like, was it because of the weather? Was it because of just something physical you had to do?
I'd say no particular day kind of springs to mind. I mean, a lot of this, I mean, because what appealed to me actually first about the character was the idea of making, the script basically had no lines in it. It was all stage direction. I had no lines really to speak of, and that kind of appealed to me as the challenge of doing it. The other side of that is that you're running across the desert on your own for a lot of it. So I spent, a lot of days where I was driven out into the middle of nowhere because they wanted these very long lens shots, and I was really kind of left on my own, wondering if the crew were ever going to come back. And I mean, it really was hot and brutal out there. So I'd say the scenes where I'm running around. Yeah.
Enough of this hard and brutal talk. Let's let's acknowledge the fact that this was Jeremy's first love scenes in his
Gekko.
in his career.
There's a perk.
And, with a stunning young lady. Again, Australian this time, for Australians and the Brits taking over Hana. So tell me a little bit about.
Thank you. Yeah. Good. I lucked out because I had a very beautiful actress to do it with, and who I held my hand. That's not the right word, is it? I can't say that.
I hope she didn't hold anything
hold
else.
my hand. It is. It's alarming when you do these scenes because the wardrobe lady always comes up to you beforehand. They go, "Jeremy, you've left some socks in your trailer." And you go, "Socks? That's weird." And then you go in there, and there's only one. There's no pairs. It's kind of one sock, and they're in different sizes as well. And it's a real gamble as to which size you want to pick, because you don't want to just leave all the big ones, but at the same time you don't want to take too big, because then there's nothing in it. So it was a learning curve.
There's a message to this movie. There is a message to this movie, and this is a message that I know is very, very important to you about gun control. And when I was doing my research, because I do research on movies like this one, I know that that gun control was something that was sort of inspired you to produce this movie in the first place. Or am I off on that?
Well, no, I wouldn't say. I mean, gun control is a disarmament is a big part of my life, and we might have had a subtle message in there, but I acknowledge hunters. And they're right. I acknowledge people who like to shoot targets. I have a little problem with automatic weapons and armored-piercing bullets, and seeing how they fit in the civilians' vernacular. But I enjoy looking at a beautiful rifle like what I have, and some of my hunting friends were very impressed with the piece I had. As our car, which my car, which I really loved. We just came up and tried to find the right vehicle for this guy, and a friend of mine recommended this new 6x6, the Mercedes that existed, and it was just perfect. And it really is a $500,000-$600,000 car. He was in the Middle East, I think, for falcon hunting or whatever.
That car is bigger than my apartment. Now, Michael, another good question we're being tweeted right now. If this movie had been made 40 years ago, would you have cast your father to play your role in the movie?
Let me see. He would have been right on. Kirk now is 98. Thank you. He's doing really well. He would have been 58, a little younger than I am, but he would have been perfect for this role. Yeah, he would have been perfect. He reminds me, this movie, his favorite movie, and mine, this too, is a movie called Lonely Are the Brave, which actually was also, was shot in New Mexico, out of Albuquerque, a Dalton Trumbo screenplay. And if any of you that are big filmographers, I really encourage you to see it, because it's a magical film that never has quite received the attention that it should.
Because you shot this basically in the middle of nowhere, but I mean, it was like you said, it was like an hour-and-a-half drive. Like, what did you do at night? Like, when you went back to your hotel? I mean, you couldn't really, just go on the internet, or did you just hang out? Did you have some drinks, play some games?
Well, I think we had a choice of 2 restaurants, didn't we? And about 6 types of meal. which was the conversation for most of the day. Which,
where we would eat. Well, I mean, the first half of the movie, I'd see Jeremy a lot. But after his leading lady came in, I didn't see him too much. And I think about it, quite honestly, but that's okay. That's all right.
When you spend all day being chased around the desert by somebody, no, it was cool. We had a great time.
It was a lovely town. There was not a big choice of restaurants. We would go over the menu judiciously during the day to see if there was something different we wanted to have. But that's just part of, it brings you all together. Conversation, dialogue, as I said earlier. Otherwise we'd all be going off to our own homes and just showing up for a regular 9-to-5 kind of job. And now you have the memories and the experiences that can never be taken away.
Now, did you, in between, like we're at the end of the day or in between takes, did you sort of like stay in character so he'd be afraid of you?
No, I mean, maybe, I might have just because I was, involved in producing. Although my producing partner, Robert Midas, is out there tonight. And to thank Robert for an extraordinary job. But Robert was probably more scared than anybody else around here was. I think he had to deal with me more than anybody else. No, I constantly try to make actors as comfortable as they possibly can be, because I want the best performances, and acting in itself is an awkward, uncomfortable situation. So you want to try to create, if you're the so-called star of the movie, or whatever else, to encourage. And I sort of learned this from Paul Newman, quite honestly, because Paul Newman prided himself on surrounding himself with the best actors possible. Because in the end, I don't want to be good in a bad movie. Right. I want to be good in a good movie. And the only way you get a good movie is for everybody to be as good as they possibly can be.
Well, what was the temperature like when you were filming out there? Did it really get as high as 120 degrees?
110.
That's still pretty damn high.
Yeah, 110. We got to have a little dramatization.
Yeah, right. You want to exaggerate a little bit.
It could get to 130, but
Now, Jeremy, what did you learn as an actor from working with Michael Douglas? Like, what were the things that you really got out of this production that you feel like you're going to use from now on?
Always choose the big sock. No, I think what impressed me most was and it's something that I've noticed in the short time I've been doing this, but with the people who've had the extraordinary long careers like Michael and Steven Spielberg, is how enthused they are about filmmaking and how much they love it and how much they clearly are so excited on set and enjoy it so much, and it's so infectious, and you kind of need that, especially on a tough shoot like this. And it filters down through the cast, through the crew, and I certainly took that as inspiration. Yeah.
What question is for both of you? Tell us about your next projects.
I got a Marvel film called Ant-Man coming out in July, which is really cool. It's my first green screen CGI, super duper big huge. It's a whole other world. It's a whole other world, and it's cool. It's great, and I feel like a little kid, and I'm watching how they do this stuff, and it's fantastic. It's sort of like the streaming that we're doing tonight. And then I did a movie that I shot with Numi Rapace, the actress from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and later, and I'm looking at other ones. So that's about where I'm at. And then my production company's gotten really busy. I produce a lot of stuff that I'm not in, kind of focusing much more in the television area. I have a first look deal with HBO, and after the success we'd had with Behind the Candelabra and seeing how they handled all of that. Thank you. I really enjoy that. They get things done in television. You can just move at a pace, and especially for small independent movies, it's a good way to go.
How about you?
I've got the Roland Emmerich's next film called Stonewall coming out, I think, in the fall, which is all about the gay rights riots in 1969 in New York, which I'm quite excited about. And then another movie called Fallen, which is one of these young adult, based on a series of young adult novels. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, I want to thank you, everyone in the audience here and around the country, for joining us for this special event for Beyond the Reach. And I want to thank Jeremy and Michael. Thank you so much for this very entertaining Q&A.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Make sure you tell everyone to see this movie.